private were being accepted and even promoted as normal. There's a danger to playing with sin, and Brother Don illustrated it in one of his episodes of It's My Turn called The Danger of Playing Around. Read about it and listen to that episode when you visit afa.net/The Stand.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio for this Tuesday, June the 18th, 2024. As always, thanks for listening to AFR. The roundtable here includes one Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Wesley Wildman.
Good morning.
Fred Jackson.
Good morning, sir.
Ed, did you notice that the Boston Celtics won the NBA championship last night?
Yeah, their 18th banner. I'm wearing my green shirt.
You are.
They beat the Dallas Mavericks in 5 games. I will freely admit I did not watch the Celtics until the playoffs.
Okay.
It's one of those deals where I have a limited amount of time and I spend it watching hockey.
Right, and you like winners. Right? Don't we all?
I'm
we all love watching winners.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't be able to watch them in the playoffs if they hadn't been. And they were a powerhouse. Just an excellent basketball team. So congratulations to them. I root for Boston teams. I don't say I'm a fan unless I can, name the starting lineup.
Okay, that's a good definition.
It is. I root for them, and historically, my life, I did that. I knew the starting lineups for the Boston Red Sox, the Boston Celtics, Boston Bruins. So I did that in the past, but you can't follow everything anymore.
But that's a personal requirement of yours. Do you also hold that to people in public? Do you call them on the spot and say, you're a fan? Okay.
Oh.
What's the lineup?
No, I mean, I don't. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about doing it because I'm a sports fanatic and I get tired of it.
Yeah, people saying they're a fan. But they can't name the
don't do it.
starting lineup.
Okay.
Well, no, most people are. You got your hardcore fans of a school or a team.
Yeah.
And they're a minority.
Yeah.
Most people are bandwagon.
Yes, I think that's more. I should be more clear. That's more the frustration.
Yeah.
When someone like myself and others that are a committed fan, highs and lows.
Yeah, I'm a Boston Bruins fan.
There's a life lesson there.
Yeah, there really is.
You stick with your team through
thick and thin,
thick or thin.
I
will say this: when your team has thin,
yeah,
then you're thinking,
and you're still a fan,
and then there's something wrong with you.
Okay.
Huh?
I don't
my
know.
dad was my dad passed away this year or last year. Wow. Okay. I used to always tease him because he was the world's worst quote unquote fan because he deliberately and bragged about the fact that he went to whatever team was winning. That was his new team.
You can't do that.
No, he'd root for the Patriots when they were winning. He'd go switch to the, he started off as a Green Bay Packers fan. Then he's a Minnesota Vikings
That's
fan.
a fan fraud.
Yes, and I used to tell him, don't even talk to me about my Patriots,
right?
Or my.
If you're not going to experience any heartbreak at all,
yeah. So with my son, I jokingly say things, and I coach his baseball team. I joke, and he watches basketball and other things. I'll jokingly say, "Well, that's illegal." Of course, it's a lot of things. It's not illegal. I just joke with them, but that is actually illegal.
Yes,
that should be against the rules.
Should be a law against that. Of course, he's in heaven now, so I mean, there's no clawing back, and punishing. But
so the Boston Celtics won the NBA championship last night.
They're 18th,
and now they have one more banner than the Los Angeles Lakers. Is that true?
I think that is true, and
that historic rivalry.
Wow, in the 80s, that was.
I
watched all the games.
Guys our age remember Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
And the Lakers versus the Celtics. What a classic matchup that was. But
and the Lakers were better in that decade. They won, I think, 3, maybe 4 championships. The Celtics won 2.
Showtime.
Yeah, wow.
Magic, Kareem, all those guys.
You guys are missing the biggest.
What's the biggest story, Fred?
Tonight.
Oh, I'm going to be watching the Edmonton
Oh,
Oilers.
the hockey games.
This is game
5.
Game 5, yeah.
Yes.
Game 5.
It's 3-1 right now, but it's back in Florida. Panthers are expected to win.
Yeah.
But I'm rooting for Edmonton for Fred's sake. I got a Canadian team to win that.
Listen,
cup.
I'm not a big NHL fan, but I don't think a team from Florida should be allowed to win ice hockey. I don't even know if they should be allowed to play.
Well, the Tampa Bay Lightning won 2 or 3
there's
championships.
for all these illegal sports things we have an action alert coming.
An action alert.
It's going.
An AFA email action alert.
Yes.
Sports. We don't know where they're going to go to, but we're going to vent.
That's right.
All right, Fred, what's your first real story?
Well, breaking news out of New York this morning. New York's highest court has declined to hear Donald Trump's appeal on the gag order that was put in place during his so-called hush money trial. And this is the original gag order.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gone up to the appeals court there in New York, and they said no. And the gag order continues. Now, I think Trump's lawyers are going to go back to Marchand, the original trial lawyer, and ask that prior to the sentencing in July, that the gag order be lifted. This is, Trump complained about this.
I've never heard of an appeal about any gag order in my life.
Well, I think the complication is it's during an election year.
But what's he not supposed to talk about that he hadn't talked about?
Well, I think the sticking point is that everyone else, like Joe Biden, can call Trump a criminal. He's a convicted felon. He's done this and he's done that. And Trump is not allowed to discuss these trials under a gag order. He can't defend himself when others are attacking him.
The stipulation of the original gag order was that he could not make public statements about any witnesses in the case, jurors, prosecutors, court staff, or members of their family.
Isn't that standard operating procedure, though?
That was the order from Marchand, Judge Marchand.
What I'm saying is, what's wrong with that order?
Well, I mean,
you want defendants out there talking about the jurors and their families and their.
Well, I personally think you should be allowed to say this is a New York jury. I think they're biased. The judge should.
Well, he's already said that. He said that 1,000 times.
Well,
he got fined $10,000 a pop.
The First Amendment says you can say it as much as you want.
Okay, the only part I wouldn't if I was serving on a jury, I wouldn't want the person saying, that Tim Wildman, the juror, it is at 49574. And you know what?
Sure.
Make him know you don't like Trump being
that's different. Doxing someone, I think, is different.
Okay.
But let me ask you this: is appealing it illegal too?
Anyway,
I don't think
now?
Is appealing it wrong?
Appealing it? No,
order?
no. He appealed the gag order. Yeah. But the court said we don't agree with the former president, and the gag order stays in order. What this article says, the gag order restricts President Trump's core political speech. No, this is Trump. Anyway.
These were the original conditions.
Anyway. I think the reason, I think any of us would appeal being any gag order, whether I understand there's a legal reason.
What's a gag order for? What's the point of it?
It is.
You disagree with a gag order, period.
Yeah, I do.
That's what I want to know. Gag orders shouldn't even exist.
I think the only time you have a gag order is if a person can potentially reveal information that should not be made public.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't think a judge has the right to gag a person's First Amendment speech. The jurors have already been selected, so you can't taint the jury pool. But by that same measuring stick, the media would have tainted the jury pool by criticizing Trump. So I'm opposed to all gag orders.
I got you.
This case, though, is so far out from any other case that.
Which case are we talking about?
We're talking about we're talking about the various cases against Trump. But in this case, most legal experts agree this was totally political in its nature.
You're talking about the Alvin Bragg case?
This is the Alvin Bragg case, yes.
Well,
And
Jack Smith, the federal prosecutor, wanted a gag order for Trump in the Mar-a-Lago case.
Yes.
And the judge there said no.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And this Marchand, I mean, he's got Democrat Party connections.
Right.
And it's an election period.
Okay, that was an appeal to the who?
The New York appeals
about the gag order.
Yes.
Not an appeal on the merits of the
No,
on the case.
just the gag order.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you have something you wanted to add?
No, this is good radio. I'm just listening
no,
in right here. This is
you can share.
yeah.
You want to share your heart?
It is good radio.
It is.
I'm just going to tell
Y'all are handling this really well. Carry on. Next
I just wonder
next story.
what the point of any gag order. So you're fundamentally against gag orders.
I am.
And that's,
I am.
If you're a man of principle.
I am. Unlike my dad when it comes to
Yeah.
being a fan. Of
Next
football
story,
team.
Fred.
Well, President Joe Biden has another major announcement today during this election.
Does he know
year. He's apparently aware of where
Okay.
he should be today. We can talk about other occasions recently where he apparently had problems. Anyway, today, President Joe Biden is basically going to announce his latest amnesty plan for more than 500,000 people who have entered this country illegally. If after entering the country illegally, they happen to marry a U.S. citizen, this is the day they're going to celebrate because the President of the United States says, you know what, I'm going to award you a status that will eventually allow you to gain citizenship in this country. In other words, no penalty. As long as you get yourself an American spouse, you're in. That's what he's announcing today.
There's going to be a bunch of people lying to get married.
Yeah. Yeah.
That used to be illegal.
Yeah.
It used to be illegal to come to this country
Well,
and
that's
marry
right.
just to get
It's
citizenship.
like an anchor baby deal.
Yeah, the Biden administration is lawless, and in light of your earlier comment about whether he knows anything, every time I see President Biden now, it reminds me of that Disney movie Frozen, because that's the way he looks every time I see him.
Oh, now
I
we've
tell you what we
transitioned.
need. I tell you what we need for Biden: a gag order.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, on anything having to do with immigration.
Yeah.
Illegal immigration. Listen, this is not funny. This is a very serious thing.
Mhm.
You have a sitting president, and this says he's going to
Executive order.
unilaterally
Yep.
through an executive order. I tell you, he runs with executive orders and just says, "Stop me, catch me if you can."
right. That's what I mean by
Type thing.
lawless.
Yeah. Now I will say this: all presidents since Bush have exceeded their authority a lot of
Yes.
times on executive orders
Absolutely.
to bypass the legislative process because they couldn't get it through.
Right.
Remember, President Obama said, "You know, I have a pen and a phone."
And I'll
Yes.
use it.
Remember, he got tired of
Right.
being blocked legislatively, which I understand if you're a president, but still. But this policy, I'm reading from the Associated Press that Fred said that Biden's going to announce will allow nearly 500,000 spouses of U.S. citizens an opportunity to apply for a parole in place program, which would shield them from deportations and offer them work permits if they lived in the country at least 10 years. You know, all this stuff is, how do you prove you've been here 10 years?
Yeah. If
Hey,
you're done illegally.
yes, Mr. Immigration Enforcement Officer. I just have you to know I came to this country illegally 12 years ago.
Yeah.
right.
Fix it.
And I got a picture of me on the border right here.
Yeah.
See the date on that picture? I came here illegally.
That's
So
why.
I've been here 10 years, so you need to get off my back.
Yeah.
That's why the census numbers are never accurate because what person who's broken a law is going to admit to it?
Yes.
Well, listen,
Especially if you could possibly get deported.
Sure, exactly.
listen, we're at a point where, well, we passed the point of the impact, the full impact of Biden letting everybody in the world come in here is going to be felt for decades to come.
Mm-hmm.
And if he wins in November,
Well, I think it'd be the number one reason he doesn't win. I've said that for 8 months now.
I agree with
yeah.
you. I agree
It will
with
be because of his
yeah.
border issue.
If he were to win in November, you talk about floodgates being open.
Oh,
There'd be no more border security.
I'm generally an optimistic
It'd be
person,
Right.
But if Joe Biden and the radical left, because they would flood into his administration even worse than they are now, if they get another 4 years, I am not optimistic that our republic can survive. Let me just also add one other thing too. We're talking about these presidents wielding a pen and a phone with their executive orders. There's an even deeper, more fundamental problem that allows them to do that, and that's all these alphabet agencies. They all have tremendous power, virtually unlimited budgets. And so when these presidents say, I'm going to issue an executive order, he couldn't do that if Congress had to then turn around and allocate money for it. Mm-hmm. They can only do that because Joe Biden, for example, says, I am ordering the Environmental Protection Agency to do such and such, transfer money out of the one slush fund into another and get it done. Yeah. But the fact that we have Congress has given all this authority to these huge unelected bureaucracies means that presidents then can wield that executive power and tell these alphabet agencies what to do.
Well, the latest example is the Department of Education. The bailouts for student loans are being done through the Department of Education.
Right.
We're talking billions of dollars now.
Right.
Have been allocated for this.
Listen, I don't know when it's going to happen or if it will happen, but I could see it potentially. I could see it in the next 10 years, maybe. So, I know this is going to sound wackadoodle to a lot of people, and it may be. I don't know, but I'm just going to share my heart.
Right.
Yeah, can I share my heart?
Absolutely. Share away.
Okay. And so there's coming some kind of divide in this country. I'm talking about two different countries. I don't know how you work that out because you got federal government,
right?
You got federal taxes, you've got Social Security, you got national defense, you've got judicial system. So I don't, that's why it sounds wackadoodle, and it may be, but I'm just throwing out let me just say this: the frustration level on the part of people who live in red states is about to tilt.
That's right. Yeah. So well over 6 million people. A conservative number is there's been 6 million illegal immigrants enter the country. A conservative number. Some will say 8.5 million. At minimum, 6 million people illegally through the southern border, primarily and through planes, have entered the country illegally, and many of those have been tied to crimes that have been committed in the country. They're also been tied to terrorism. Those that are on the terrorist list, all those have happened. Not to mention the economic downturn.
Well, drugs too. The drugs and the human trafficking.
The drugs,
gang activity.
And these numbers, the lowest he under the watch of Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, under his administration, the least amount has been 1.7.
You mean for a year?
Annually, 1 year, 1.7. That's the least amount. And the most that Trump had, the most was just shy of 800,000, and that was the most. He had as low as Trump's first year in office. He had just north of 200,000 compared to 2.2 million.
Well, also it's the practical, real life numbers that you just mentioned, Trump versus Biden. But it's also the attitude.
Yeah.
The attitude. Trump's attitude was, let's control our border. Well, let's work out a deal with Mexico where they help us because they're incentivized to help us. Remain in Mexico policy.
Yeah.
Those things.
And there's been a major shift too. A couple stories. In 2007, there was a poll by the Gallup poll in 2007 where they polled Americans regardless of Republican, Democrats, and the majority of Americans in 2007 said, "Look, if you're here legally, let's work this thing out. Let's figure it out. Let's find some pathway of citizenship." And this is in 2007. Now in 2024. In both February and April, two different polls, both say that the majority of Americans now want mass deportation regardless of the Republican or Democrat. And the majority of those are independent voters.
That's a stunning turnaround.
And from 2007 to 2024, Americans are saying, you know what? And I think it comes back to all of this. The whole discussion comes back to the fact that meaning a handful of Republicans on the southern border, like Abbott, has bused all of the a lot of illegal immigrants to these big cities who are now having to deal with the problem as well. We've talked about this before, and I believe that was one of the best things that happened, because I've been frustrated since 2007.
Right.
But people that are just based on reading and knowledge and understanding how this works, how this plays out. But a lot of people just looked at it differently in 2007 until they got bused to their communities, and now we're seeing a shift, a hard shift.
It's amazing what's happening. If you got a guy in your state and you find out he's a bank robber, he robbed a bank somewhere else, authorities in that state can arrest him.
Right.
There's a story out of Iowa this morning. A judge has ruled there. A judge has ruled that the state of Iowa, I'm sorry, you just cannot arrest somebody if there's a deportation order on them and they happen to be in that state. You cannot arrest them. The Iowa law would have allowed the state to file criminal charges against illegal immigrants who have outstanding deportation orders or who previously have been denied entry to the U.S. This judge, Stephen Lockers, he put the block on that, basically saying, no, a state does not have jurisdiction to do that. Immigration is federal jurisdiction. But these illegals are showing up in every state now is a border state. I'm not the first to say that.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about numbers.
Mm-hmm.
In the first 5 months of this year, 1.4 million.
Yes, he's setting a new record. The Biden administration is setting a new record each month.
Yes, 1.4 million
Their own record.
in 5 months.
Yep.
This is what's going on.
That's what
And if Joe Biden is reelected, there will be no deportation.
Well, just take the numbers. We know it's facts. We know for sure the numbers aren't going to go down. Like, if anything, they're neutral. Okay, so if you just take numbers and just keep them neutral, you double 6 that he's been able to accomplish in 3 years. You double that in another 4-year term, you're looking at 12 to 15 million people that are here illegally.
I don't know if I'd use the word accomplish.
Oh, I know, right? Seriously.
Well,
for him, it's an accomplishment.
Yes.
I say it tongue in cheek.
Yeah. You know what? I don't want to philosophize this thing too much. Can you philosophize something? Do you guys
can
know?
philosophize.
Huh?
Absolutely, philosophize.
If I can't philosophize it, I can philosophize it.
You can fillet it.
Philosophy is a noun.
Okay. I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. I don't quite understand. I hope I'm not so sinister. This isn't just all sinister. I don't understand why Democrats want to flood our country with millions of people illegally. I don't know what they see it as
value.
An advantageous. That's an advantageous policy for our country to take.
Unless your expectation is that they will be Democratic voters eventually.
Yes.
When
they're
legalized.
That would be an incentive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I said that long before you did.
Even though you couldn't figure out why they were doing it.
I was asking a rhetorical question because I was.
In which he was. Yeah.
I was asking a rhetorical question,
Yes.
Ed, because I was sharing my heart, Ed.
Okay.
I was
All
sharing
right.
my heart, and you're making fun of me.
Making fun of your heart.
I'm just saying I think that's the goal. The goal is for Biden and the Democrats, and it has been for the Democrats for a while. They won't say it like this out loud, although Biden's starting to. When he's saying, hey, we got 500,000 people, as long as you marry an American, you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about saying it out loud.
Yeah.
And so what Biden and the Democrats are basically saying is everybody in the world can come here, and guess what? When we get the numbers to vote out these right-wingers, we're going to make all you folks citizens of America.
Yep.
And you can go on the dole.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
we'll take care of you.
We'll take care of everything you want. We'll become a straight-up socialist country.
That way we don't have to ballot harvest anymore.
Yeah. We'll be back momentarily.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Now, when he heard that John had been arrested, he withdrew into Galilee, and leaving Nazareth, he went and dwelt in Capernaum by the sea. The city of Capernaum was located on the west shore of the beautiful Sea of Galilee, about 2.5 miles south of where the Jordan River enters the lake. It was the adopted home of Jesus. He went to Capernaum following his rejection at the synagogue in Nazareth at the beginning of his public ministry. Capernaum was a teeming city of about 50,000 population. It was located on a main highway running from Damascus to Jerusalem. Quite possibly, the Apostle Paul passed through the city prior to his experience on the way to Damascus. In all probability, there was a Roman military post located at Capernaum, a theory enhanced considerably by the experience Jesus had with a Roman centurion, an officer with 100 men under his command, concerning the centurion's slave. Many are the experiences of Jesus related to Capernaum, which the Gospels reveal. It was here that Jesus called his first disciples. Peter and Andrew, two brothers of contrasting personalities, and James and John, also brothers and possibly partners with Peter and Andrew in the fishing business, were called by Jesus in this area. It was here also that Jesus called Matthew the tax collector to discipleship. Quite possibly, Matthew had paid more than $20,000 for the right to tax in Capernaum. It was no small sum to give up in order to follow Christ. It was here in Capernaum that Jesus touched the hand of Peter's mother-in-law as she lay ill. The touch was followed by a loss of fever, and the lady arose and began to wait on her honored guest. The fame of Jesus grew rapidly in and around Capernaum. Crowds flocked to see and hear this one who taught with authority and healed those who were sick. Once, while Jesus was teaching and preaching in a house in the city, 4 men brought their paralyzed friend to Jesus to be healed. Unable to get into the house through the door, they carried their friend up the outside stairs to the roof. There they made a hole and lowered their friend down into the room where Jesus was. He was so impressed because of the persistent faith of the 4 men and had such great compassion for the paralyzed man that he healed him. Very little remains of Capernaum today. Visitors can get only a thought of what the city must have been like in the days of Jesus from what the excavators have found. Possibly the best preserved structure is that of a 2nd century synagogue. Many believe these ruins are on the site of the synagogue where Jesus taught. A house excavated a short distance from that synagogue is thought to be, by some, the home of Peter. It is a possibility. Capernaum was a city on the western shore of the Sea of Galilee. It was also the place where many were healed by Christ, and many chose to follow him. In that respect, there are Capernaums located around the world.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Psalm 139, 23, and 24.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Okay, welcome back to today's issues on the American Family Radio. Ed, Fred, and Wesley have so worked me up.
Ed, Fred.
And I went for a second bag of popcorn, already having a first bag in the studio.
Well,
have you ever had that happen in your life? Where
never.
You get a second bag of popcorn when you don't really need it?
Never. I've never done
You just
that.
go back for a second piece of cake when you don't really need it, right, Ed?
I'm actually not a big cake eater,
Well,
but
whatever. It's a metaphor. Second piece of fill in the blank.
Pizza slice.
No, you're saying it was a direct result of us getting you so worked that you forgot that
Yes.
you had another.
Well, I was
Okay.
trying to form in my mind how we have a second country,
and then
and
that's
then
how you
that's
got
when
the
the
two.
popcorn, second bag of popcorn entered into my head.
So
You see
your
how that works?
analogy is going to be now how we get the.
Well, okay. Let me just say this, and this is, we're having a little fun banter with this, but I'm just telling you, and y'all know this, and many of our listeners know this. The red states in this country being forced by the federal government impose this crazy left-wing ideology that Biden and his administration are pushing, not by legislation,
right,
but by edict, by
yes,
executive order, like this Title IX garbage. You remember that? Now
Right.
I feel a sermon coming on right here. Just
you
just
get
beware.
wound up.
Here's what Biden did the other day, a month ago, 2 months ago. We talked about this. Listen to this. He said the Department of Education, through Title IX funding, again, our country messed up way back when we started when the federal government grew to this monstrosity that nobody even can control anymore and unaccountable. These three-letter agencies
Right.
you're talking about. But I digress. Biden said, hey, Department of Education, Secretary of Education, write the states, write all 50 states, and tell them that if they don't accept transgendered people for what they say they are, with full participation in sports, women's showers, women's locker rooms, if they don't accept that, you revoke their funding. You take their. Am I right, Fred? Am I recounting that?
That's it. That's it exactly.
Okay, that's what we're contending with now. So Biden is telling the states that you got to allow a boy to compete against a girl in high school sports, or we're taking your money. We're taking the federal funding that is distributed all over the country, which is a whole other issue. Too many states are dependent on the federal government now for money, so but you're going to have things happen like Wesley mentioned Governor Abbott in Texas, the stand he's taken, and other governors too. But Governor Ron DeSantis the other day, in response to what I just talked about, he said, you know what, we're not complying.
Right.
I mean, that was a line in the sand. He said, Florida's not doing this, Biden. We're not forcing our girls to compete against our boys. We're not putting boys in the showers at the high school.
Right.
And so you can keep I don't know if he said he didn't say you can keep your money, DeSantis of Florida, but he said Florida's not doing this. So I'm saying when you start reaching that level of response where Governor DeSantis could have said, well, we'll see what we can do. I don't know. This is disappointing.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're going to get more and more governors who are going to say we're not complying, and so that's what do you call that? A stalemate.
That's a constitutional crisis.
Right. Hey, I know who can solve a constitutional crisis. Dr. Alex McFarland.
Yes.
He can, because he's a peanut farmer from North Carolina, and that's what they do.
They handle crises every day.
Constitutional crisis. Right. Alex, good morning, brother.
Good morning, my dear friends.
Alex, we've been talking some radical stuff here in terms of, but in human history, somebody may be sitting at these microphones 50 years from now, if the radio even exists, going, in 2034 is when the red states split from the blue states and form their own country. Ed and I were talking here off the air, Alex. I mean, I'm sure it sounded completely and totally radical when the colonists decided, you know what, we're not putting up with the British crown anymore. We want our own country. So those things do happen in the course of human history. Anyway, go ahead. What are your thoughts on what I've just been ranting about here?
No, it's great. And, over and over, I want to say how much I thank the Lord for the American Family Radio Network. And I hear this as I travel. People say AFR is a refreshing word of sanity in a culture that's lost its way. And it's an oasis of truth and hope. But we really are in a bad place. And let me just say this, folks. It boils down to, among many things, but the constitutional crisis and the judicial crisis, and really what jeopardizes the preservation of the U.S. Constitution is our abandonment of belief in moral truth. And in some cases, people have willfully suppressed moral truth. And in other cases, it seems like people are just ignorant of it. And guys, regarding this Title IX, when I was president of a seminary and a small college, and then when I've taught at places like Liberty University or North Greenville University, we would always have Title IX training and Clery, C-L-E-R-Y, the Clery Act. And as you guys probably know, Title IX says you can't discriminate against based on gender, and also it's a crime to engage in sexual harassment or domestic violence. But what Title IX, what the Biden administration wants to do with Title IX, and by the way, they're basing this off a 2020 Supreme Court decision that nobody talks about, but it was a horrible decision, Bostock versus Clayton County, Georgia. And I'm going to circle back to that. But Title IX, okay, you can't fire somebody just because they're a male or a female or refuse to hire. Sexual harassment is wrong. Violence is wrong. Stalking, harassment, obviously those things are wrong. Now, what Biden wants to do, though, is make the Title IX and the Clery Act include that you have to affirm transgenderism. And the Bostock case, I know everybody talks about Obergefell in 2015. Have you guys, Ed or Tim, does this ring a bell, the Bostock case of 2020? Have you guys talked about that?
Oh, yeah. I think it's pronounced Bostock case. Yeah, that was yeah, go ahead. That was tremendously damaging because it
was. And I'm going to tell you, it deals with two words. One is the word being. And the wording of the SCOTUS decision, I was very surprised. And let me tell you why I'm surprised, folks. And I know I sound like a broken record, but the philosophy in which the Declaration, Preamble, Constitution, and 27-point Bill of Rights was written, the philosophy is called natural law. Now, natural law says, and this is not, the laws of physics. Water will boil at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not talking about that. Natural law says there are some things about reality that are nobody's opinion. Male and female are different. There's a moral code written on every heart. It's just like the Ten Commandments, but we have a conscience. And the idea of full faith and credit, the idea of equal accountability before the law, equal protection under the law, all of these things are the philosophy that made our government unique. Whenever we talk about American exceptionalism, we're talking about the fact that we were built around the Judeo-Christian moral code. All right, but in the Bostock, and forgive my southern mispronunciations, but the Bostock case says that you cannot fire an employee for, quote, being homosexual or transgender. Now, the word being is very problematic because the Supreme Court in this decision is assuming that homosexual behavior or transgender behavior is an ethnicity. And it goes on, and it says in the preamble or the rationale for this decision that in 1964, sex referred to male or female, but they're expanding that understanding to mean that sex or gender can be however you identify yourself. And so two big problems, and I'll throw it to you guys. They're assuming that homosexual transgender behavior is your ethnicity, and they're assuming that your gender can be fluid. And that goes against natural law. It is absolutely unprovable, unscientific, can't be uniformly applied. And this is, I truly believe, one of the most ill-informed and potentially disastrous Supreme Court decisions in the history of our nation.
Talking to Dr. Alex McFarland. Hey, you got your Worldview youth conferences? Are you in the middle of those for the summer or what?
Yes. Sunday we start the 2nd of 7. We're in Temple, Georgia. And guys, I got to tell you this. We had 32 kids accept Christ and get saved in Montana a week ago. Had 100 kids every day coming to the altar, praying for America. And I'm going to send you this video, Tim, of 140 kids shouting, "We are the generation who will restore America." And we're full up down in Georgia. After
You're
we get
full up?
Yeah, we're full up. 120 kids in Georgia.
He's visited Tupelo, Mississippi way too many times.
Yeah.
Full up.
He's full up down in Georgia.
Exactly.
But anyway, when is the so you don't have any more space available, what you're saying, for the Georgia camp?
23 through 28 in Georgia. But we were in Montana this year for the first time because 2 moms in Gillette, Montana heard me on AFR, and they came to South Carolina last year to visit our camp. Then we had the camp this year. 32 kids got saved. All these kids made decisions to stand strong. But all that is made possible because 2 moms heard me on AFR a year and a half ago.
Okay, so you got 2 down and how many to go?
2 down, 6 to go.
6 to go. So where can people read about your upcoming? These are youth conferences that Alex is hosting this summer. Where they go on through August? When July and August? When are they?
Yeah, we wrap up in August, and
Okay.
It's biblical worldview, it's apologetics, defending the faith, but we say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
It's also patriotism.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So,
And,
so how can people find out about the conferences?
Just go to alexmcfarland.com. And guys, we've also, I haven't sprung this on you, but I wrote what we call a first-time voter's guide that I've put up on my website to urge people to vote. June 27, I'm going to be on Fox News. I'm going to record with Fox News. There's a pastor, I've got to look into who it is, but this pastor wants to debate me on the fact, he says, I vehemently disagree. He says Christians have no business being involved in politics. Pastors have no business telling their parishioners to vote, he says.
To vote?
And so,
just to vote? Not even who to vote for?
Yeah. And so we're going to film and record a debate June 27. But I tell these teenagers.
You're going to win that one.
Well,
right.
I know my home is in heaven. But, till we get to heaven, we must be stewards of our nation. And the good news is teenagers, man, they resonate with this.
All right, Alex McFarland. So AlexMcFarland.com. No need for an A on the Mac, right?
That's right.
AlexMcFarland.com. Alex has got 7 other conferences coming up this summer. Just list the states. Can you go through the states real quick coming up?
Yes. We've got Georgia. We got South Carolina. We got New Jersey. We've got Colorado. And we've got Indiana. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We just did Montana. Yeah. That's 6. And there's going to be one more, and I don't even know where it is, guys. I'm sorry.
Well, all I know is if you ever have one in Boston, I want to be invited to speak.
Exactly. We need to do that, Ed. We need to.
Well,
I've spoken in Boston a bunch.
Please come to Boston.
Please.
It's springtime. Huh?
That's a pop culture trivia reference that you've got to be.
Yeah, that's
I got it.
All right, thanks, Alex. Got to let you go, brother. Have a great day.
Hey, let me say one last thing, if I could. I'll be at the Cove, the Billy Graham Center, June 12th through 14th, and there's 25 seats left. Thecove.org, and Angie and I would love to see you there.
I think you said June 12th through 14th.
Forgive me, July 12th through 14th.
All
I
right.
was going to say, can you you have a time machine where we can go back and July the what to the what?
12th through 14th, I'll be at the Cove teaching the book of 1 John. It's my 18th summer at the Cove, the Billy Graham Training Center, and that's July 12th through 14th.
Okay.
And it's almost full, but I'd love to see you there at the Cove.
All right, thanks, Alex. Appreciate it, brother.
Blessings. Bye.
Take care. He's going to teach on what did he say?
1 John, the epistle, 1 John.
Okay. For 3 days?
Man, if
I'm asking
I
the wrong
got
person.
if I got invited to the Cove, I'd teach on it as long as they wanted me to. 7 days, absolutely.
Yes,
We'll
go
split it
for
up.
It's a great place to go, and Alex is from North Carolina, but he's talking about the Billy Graham Training Center in the Cove in
I'm going to be there next week.
Ashland. What are you going for?
You teaching?
No.
He's running a 5K there.
No. I am strictly a student. Professors from Dallas Theological Seminary are
Wow.
teaching.
Is this on eschatology or something? Or
Book of Genesis this year.
oh wow, excellent.
Other end.
They've done Daniel and Revelation the last couple of years, but this year it's the Book of Genesis. For a whole week, you cannot beat it.
Wow,
That's awesome.
Also, they got great food there, and
They
the
do.
scenery is wonderful.
It is.
You're listening to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. If you want to send us an email, the address is comments@afr.net, comments@afr.net. Well, speaking of engaging the culture and politics and government and being part of making a difference for the positive side, we have a gentleman in studio with us who is a state representative in Mississippi. So he works in the legislature in Jackson annually and is a listener and a supporter and a good friend of our ministry. And he did staff devotion for us here this morning. So we said, why don't you come on in and talk about this? And Randy Boyd is in studio. Good morning, Brother Randy.
Good morning.
Randy, you're from about 20 miles from here, right?
That's right.
Did you grow up in Mantachie?
No, I grew up north of Tremont,
Tremont, Mississippi. Of course, that's
home of Tammy Wynette.
Tammy Wynette, yeah. So stand by your man of Tammy Wynette
yes.
fame. We got all kind of pop culture references from the 60s and 70s. So how long have you been what was your tell us how you got involved in quote politics?
Well, for years I followed politics just as anyone would. You know, it's patriotic and just wanted to do well in our country. But I was a forester and a land surveyor. I graduated Mississippi State in 1976 with a forestry degree and later became a land surveyor as the need arose. And I worked in this area for a long time. And in 2008, our son, we lost him in an automobile accident one day when he was going to junior college over at Fulton. And it gave me time to sit back and reflect and decide what I needed to do. And God led me into this. I didn't really think about getting into politics before. I just, that was just one of those things I just kind of brushed aside. But I feel like God led me into it, and he put me down there. And one of the reasons he gave me was that I want to have some effect on how my grandchildren are going to be raised and where my great-grandchildren are going to be raised. And if I can affect some of the laws in this state, then that will give us an opportunity.
So you ran and were elected in what year?
2011 is when I ran. I went in first year, 2012.
That's a 2-year, no, 4-year. 4 years. So, because different states have different laws,
right.
About their state legislators. So you went into politics, decided to run for office. Did that surprise your wife?
Yeah, it did.
How do you break that news to her?
Slowly.
Okay. Well, by the way, honey,
drop a few hints here and there.
Yeah, before we go to sleep tonight, turn and pray. I just want to let you know I'm running for political office this fall. I really feel like.
You've been too close to me then.
So what being a Christian, you hear like Alex was talking about. A lot of people say, well, Christians shouldn't be involved in politics because that's really not the Lord's work, or it's dirty, or it's anyway, that kind of thing. How do you view it?
Well, I don't consider it to be inherently dirty. I think it's what you make of it.
Amen.
And my idea was to go down there and make things better. And, of course, I live as a Christian every day. And me carrying that.
When you say down there, by the way, you're talking about going to Jackson.
Jackson in the legislature.
Jackson,
yeah.
And from where we live in Tupelo, that's, quote, down there. I just want
That's
people
3
to know.
hours, yeah.
But go ahead. Yep.
But in the legislature, I'm known as a Christian. We have
Right.
devotionals down there in the on Tuesday mornings where the House and the Senate get together, and we have devotionals.
Right.
And I'm always there. People see me. I wear a cross a lot of times on my lapel to let people know that that's what I stand for. And not only do I wear it, I try to portray it in every way that I can. I help people. I try to be carrying a good attitude all the time. And, it takes that to get rid of this dirty definition of politics. You do what's right, and you let people know that you're doing what's right, and you let them know that your vote's not for sale, that you're going to do what's right regardless of the cost.
I think that's why, and you know this already, and that's why a lot of people are cynical about politics, both even from a local to a state to a national level. A lot of people are cynical about politics because they feel like it's all about who gets the most. It's business. It's money.
Yeah.
It's and that
as opposed to representing people.
Yes. In other words, the money buys the policy, not the policy is good for the public. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, and I think it's not fair, but there is a reason for that. There is a history of a lot of money having so much influence into politics, where people who are
That's fair.
the most powerful and the most wealthy get their way on things. So that's what a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's why lobbyists get a bad rap on things. I know some lobbyists that I trust implicitly.
Okay.
But
lobbyists has become a bad word.
That's right.
Yeah.
But they can give you a lot of information. What I generally do is I find a lobbyist that's for a bill and one against the bill, and I talk to both of them and weigh the pros and cons both ways before I make a decision. Of course, I do some praying too, but I let God lead me to what I need to do, and people know that that's the way I'm going to vote. I can disagree with the speaker, and sometimes that's not good, but I mean, our speaker's a fair man, and I think he does the right thing, and most of the time.
Speaker Gunn, you're talking about?
No,
Philip.
Speaker White.
I mean White, yeah. Philip was. He was.
Philip was, yeah. But, I feel like he's going to make the right decision most of the time.
Right.
But I don't agree with my wife all the time. We've been married 50 years.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
you paid the price for that one.
Not a full price.
I'm looking around all the men in this room.
Oh, you're on your own, sir.
But you know what? Here's the thing I wanted to emphasize here, because, Randy, you're representative of this, pun intended there, I guess, and that is we encourage people. God may call you to run for mayor. God may call you to make, all politics is local, to run for city council,
school board,
county commissioner, state representative, state senator, lieutenant governor, governor. Listen, the states are going to, and the legislatures and the governors are going to become more and more important as the federal government increasingly tries to impose its will, and its liberal leftist will on much of the country. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate you being in with us, brother.
Thank you for letting me come.
That's Representative Randy Boyd, who did South Devo for us this morning, and we invited him to stay over. He hails from Mantachie, Mississippi, just a few miles from where we sit. We'll be back after the news. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
There's a lot happening around us. That's why Christians need to stand strong on family values and morality. Hi, I'm Ray Rooney, editor of The Stand, a blog from the American Family Association. The Stand has timely, carefully written articles on relevant cultural issues that you can quickly forward to others. Visit afa.net/The Stand.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
This is American Family News. I'm Steve Jordahl. A federal judge has temporarily blocked a new Iowa law that allowed law enforcement officials to charge people facing deportation. Fox's Tanya J. Powers has more.
Iowa's law, which was set to go into effect on July 1st, was challenged by the Department of Justice and civil rights groups that said it violated the federal government's sole authority over immigration. The so-called illegal reentry law is similar to an earlier Texas law, which was also blocked and would make it a state crime to enter Iowa after being deported from or denied entry to the U.S. Iowa's Deputy Solicitor General had argued that while the government determines immigration law, when someone breaks that law, they're also in violation of state law. The federal judge who temporarily blocked it said the law was, quote, not defensible. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
The House wants to rid the military of woke policies that are negatively affecting readiness. AFN's Chad Groening has more.
On Friday, the House passed its version of the annual National Defense Authorization Act. This year, the House has introduced amendments aimed at stopping the use of the military to promote abortion, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the radical LGBTQ agenda. Additional NDAA amendments promote religious liberty and support of Israel. Burgess Owens is a Republican member of Congress from Utah, who was a recent guest on Washington Watch on American Family Radio. He says they are moving in the right direction.
What we're recognizing now in 2024 is we've been under attack for quite a while. It's called cultural Marxism. And it makes no sense because there is no sense to it. It's this anti-American culture, anti-God. And the upside of where we are today, I'm so thankful to be here now, is the American people are getting it too.
And Owen says the GOP needs a sweep this November.
We get a bigger majority that we need to govern this coming November. We get the Senate and President Trump. And I can tell American people we're on our way. The cavalry's here, and we're going to start seeing once again what the American dream looks like. So I'm excited about being here to watch this and be part of it.
It still has to get through the Senate. I'm Chad Groening.
For the first time in history, you can watch the story of Jesus on the big screen completely in American Sign Language. Bronson Woodruff reports.
The studio Deaf Missions is releasing Jesus, a Deaf Missions film in theaters this week. Chad Intinger is CEO of Deaf Missions. He is deaf, so the man you hear speaking will be Intinger's interpreter, Jonathan Walterhouse.
The purpose for the movie is to reach deaf people with the gospel of Jesus. And as deaf people, we can't hear, but we can see. And this film is a powerful way to communicate the gospel.
Intinger said viewers will learn a lot about Jesus and his ministry, the tension he wrestled with the Jewish leaders and other religious leaders.
But overall, they're going to learn about Jesus' great love and his sacrifice and his death on the cross for our sins. Hearing people can benefit from this movie as well because it will have subtitles and sound behind it as well. So we welcome all deaf and hearing people to experience the gospel together.
Intinger said this is an historic film.
This is the first gospel film ever done by deaf people for deaf people. We have deaf producers, we have deaf people throughout the cast and crew that have been involved.
I got to wondering, this movie is entirely in American Sign Language. So what about scenes where characters' hands are bound? Like Jesus when he speaks while hanging from the cross.
Of course, you might not be surprised by the answer, but I will say you have to go see the movie to get the answer to that question. But I want to congratulate our deaf producers as they wrestled through that question.
Jesus, a Deaf Missions film, is coming to theaters this Thursday, June 20th. I'm Bronson Woodruff.
Officials say firefighters have increased their containment of a large wildfire that's threatening critical infrastructure in mountains north of Los Angeles. Hot, dry, windy weather forecast for Tuesday could pose challenges. The post-fire was 20% contained. Strong winds mean the fire is expected to keep moving south. Officials had earlier warned residents of the 19,000-person community of Castaic that they should prepare to leave if the fire pushes south. Find more news and information online. Our web address is afn.net. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and the AFN mobile app. For American Family News, I'm Steve Jordan.
Interested in seminary but don't think it will work in this season in life? Wesley Biblical Seminary offers flexible options that allow you to take classes live, no matter where you are. At WBS, we don't just educate people, we develop trusted leaders for faithful churches. It's time for you to respond to the calling God has on your life. Take classes from an institution that you can trust for a calling that will not go away. Learn more about your opportunities at wbs.edu. That's wbs.edu.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. We have an app that many of you take advantage of. That's the AFR app, so that when you travel and you get outside of our radio signal from a tower, you can get AFR anytime, anywhere on the app. I don't know, we may have as many listeners on the AFR app now as we do on our radio network in terms of the terrestrial towers out there across the country we have. So just download the AFR app. Take you about here's the thing, there are some people listening to me right now, and when I say download the app, they start having a little heart palpitations. They're like going,
You are targeting specific people here?
Yeah, well, I met a few of them. Like I met, and they go, well, you know, I know some people listen to that app, but I just don't know how to, I don't know how, that's high tech for me, and I don't want to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, of course, I'm thinking to myself, I don't say this because I don't want to offend them, but I'm saying, like, it takes you about 3 minutes to learn this, okay? And so about 2 minutes to actually do it. And then you can click, right?
Yeah.
Click, like put your thumb on a button and listen.
Yeah, but
see how condescending I sounded right there?
But one of the things that I think is a stumbling block for people, of the
it's kind of a technical sin,
the characteristic that you're highlighting right now, is that sometimes you have to use a password to download an app. Now, I'm going to say this about my wife. My wife has learned to do a lot of things technologically, but I've started having to keep track of her passwords because she doesn't know what her password is for anything. And she'll say something like, I want to download this app, or I want to do this, and I don't know my password. So now I tell her what her password is.
Well, you control her life then.
Well,
in a way,
sometimes
I don't know if that's good or not. That's, Well, yeah,
that is a stumbling block for some people. They go, I don't know how to.
Now wait a minute. Now, if I go over here to the App Store on my iPhone, for example, I don't have to have a password. Have I already entered it?
That's probably.
So at one time, Wesley? You help us here. You understand?
Wesley is one of the people that you're talking about.
Yes. Thank you, Ed. Ed's the only one that remembers that.
What?
You're like my mother-in-law that asked me, do I want a salad every week when we all know I haven't eaten salad my entire life. You just forget. I'm the least, from a millennial standpoint, I'm the least technology person you'll ever meet.
And you like it that way.
I love it. Here's what I tell people. I do just enough to do my job.
There you go.
All right.
Right.
Well, I support the benefits of it, but I am too whatever you fill in the blank to keep up with it.
Yeah.
I'd hate to use lazy, but some would use that.
So you can download the AFR app on your iPad or iPhone or similar device.
It's very easy.
It's very easy to do, and then you just click boom, and you can listen to us clear anywhere you go as long as it has high-speed internet.
That was a jab at my mother-in-law, but I was being funny.
No.
It's an inside joke. We joke about it.
She asked you if you want a salad every time.
And I haven't eaten. I've never eaten a salad in my life. But it's just one of those things because most people do eat salads.
Yes.
So when we're sitting down, so we joke about that.
And most millennials are technologically savvy.
Let's use this as an example. Let's use this as a moment, Dad.
A teaching moment.
Don't ask me for technical questions.
Okay.
I'm not your guy.
Right, I'm not your. Now, Steve, how do you keep up with your passwords?
Well, now you're gonna.
I can't tell you because
Yes.
it's a little bit. First of all, it's a little bit embarrassing. It's not password. I will tell you that my password is not password.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Anyone who does that anymore.
But there is something about my passwords that, if I were to say it, would
defeat the
compromise
purpose.
it a little bit.
Yeah. I
So,
get it. I get it.
But that's how you remember your password.
Yes. You do have to use a password or face recognition if you're downloading an app, because once you hit the app and you say download, it'll ask you for your password.
Yeah.
But
pick one.
here's the good news. The people that have come to you and say, I hear you talk about downloading the app and I don't know how, they don't need it because they heard it over terrestrial radio and they're already listening.
Yeah, but some of them travel, and they want to get it when they go out of town. But yeah, that is a good point.
This is good radio. I can.
Well,
just
the
tell you
password.
that.
I think the password thing, not just for an app, but the password thing is getting. You better write.
It's getting ridiculous.
Yeah. But anyway, let's move on to the first
the hard news and depressing news of the day.
Bring us the first depressing news story of the day, Steve. Steve Paisley Jordahl, by the way.
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah.
I must tell you, I grieve for my profession. I've heard of the journalists and networks, like they're dumbing down the news, but I've never heard them this dumb. Oh, my goodness. You're about to hear a report that aired on CNN. This is a reporter on CNN, a package that CNN edited and allowed to be on the air.
This is not a live report from somewhere where someone messes up.
No.
Yeah.
No.
This is a package.
This is a produced package.
Edited, approved.
Now, in the last couple months, they've had a handful, so let's see if we can top this one.
Cut 9.
Obviously, there's a lot of criticisms of
stop. Hold on a second.
Trump that he is
just to set it up. This is CNN sent a reporter out to a Trump rally.
Okay.
To talk to the Trump people. Sorry. Thank you. 9.
Obviously, there's a lot of criticisms of Trump that he is bad for democracy, that he's bad for American democracy.
Okay. We are a republic.
We're a republic.
We are
We're
not a democracy.
Republic. We're not a democracy.
One thing we've been hearing at Trump rallies like this over the past few months is that America isn't really a democracy.
America's not a democracy, it's a republic.
Look, it's not a democracy. Okay, democracy is actually not as good as you think it is.
Some Republicans and pro-Trump media are pushing the idea that America is not a democracy.
The United States of America is not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic.
The United States of America is not a democracy. You don't want to be in a democracy.
We are not a democracy. We are a republic.
Is America a democracy?
America is a democracy. It was founded as a democracy.
I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories. I hear a lot of things out on the road. But to hear Americans, people who would describe themselves as patriots, say that America is not a democracy, that stopped me in my tracks.
You are hearing people say America is not a democracy because there are people around Trump who want them to be saying that, who've been planting that narrative.
Who is that? Who are we listening to? Was that CNN?
That was CNN.
Oh, okay. Now I'm going to upset the apple cart. Okay, you want to hear our listeners? Their heads are going to explode what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to stand back.
Okay.
Because the liberal lightning is about to strike.
This is coming from a political science major. Okay. If you say America is not a democracy, you are wrong. Okay. We are a representative democracy, not a direct democracy.
Representative republic.
No, representative democracy, and the form it takes is a republic. Okay, so I think what people are trying to say is we are not a direct democracy where everyone votes for every measure that is passed.
It is.
We are a representative.
He's going to finish.
We are a representative democracy in the form of a republic. A democracy is a form of government where the people rule. Okay, that's what the word literally means. A representative democracy is a form of government where the people rule through their representatives. And the fact that we are a republic goes more to the fact of our Constitution setting it up.
That before you speak, Steve, I know you want to speak. Let me just say this. Let me come back to this if I need to. But CNN, I think your point, Steve, here is that, and I see what CNN was trying to do there. Okay, CNN was trying to paint Trump supporters as people who believed in totalitarianism and what do you call it when some authoritarianism and dictatorship. In other words, those who support Trump are for a dictatorship. That's what they were trying to do with that piece. That's why they kept saying democracy. Right. But go ahead.
All right. It is painfully and very obvious that what you said, Ed, is true. That we are a representative republic or democracy. I know there's a difference, but the thing that gets me is that CNN legitimately did not understand that.
Right.
They weren't just trying to ding Trump as a dictator. It's obvious. If you say to somebody, they say, hey, it's a threat to democracy, you say to them, well, we're not really a democracy, we're a representative republic. Well, okay, but they use democracy in this way or that way or whatever.
Right.
No, CNN had no clue. It was a conspiracy theory.
Right.
And they didn't know.
Right.
And you would think that somebody, they have lawyers at CNN,
right?
People that were political strategists, someone would have said, hey, they're right, say what you want, but.
Well, yeah, but what they were trying to insinuate is just like I said, the whole point of that piece you just heard right there, with the ominous music in the background, I think, was to say these people who support Trump are for a theocracy or a dictatorship. They're not for allowing everybody to have a voice and a vote.
They may have been trying to do that, but they had to prove themselves to have a 30-point IQ to do it.
Right.
So what's
I think you're being generous to CNN.
Maybe
30 points. Our founders hated direct democracy.
Yeah,
they hated it.
I know.
And that's what the people
I know what
they
you
were
guys
asking.
were discussing, but I'm saying that CNN did not know the difference. They thought that when we said that we're not a democracy, that we're a representative, that they thought this was some conspiracy theory. They used the word conspiracy theory.
And they tied it to Trump because they want to continue to say that Trump is a dictator.
No, because they didn't know.
Yeah.
No, Trump.
Because they didn't know.
Right.
Sorry. Say it louder and scream more.
Because they didn't know.
Oh, man.
All right, next story.
All right, back to CNN.
Yes,
CNN. CNN. They are freaking out a little bit because of the polling that's going on. I want you to hear. This is one of their analysts.
Who's they?
They CNN.
Oh, you're still on.
I'm
CNN.
still on CNN. Different story, same network.
Okay.
CNN is reporting on the polls, which are being very bad news for Joe Biden and Democrats, as we've discussed many times on this show. Harry Enton is one of their analysts, and he is looking at the numbers of black voters who support Biden versus Trump. And they are not at all happy. Listen to cut 3.
In 2020, Joe Biden was getting 86% of the African-American vote. Look at where it is now. It's 70%. That's a 16-point drop, John. And more than that, it's not just that Joe Biden is losing ground, it's that Donald Trump is gaining ground. You go from 7%, single digits at this point in 2020, to now 21%. And again, John, I keep looking for signs that this is going to go back to normal, And I don't see it yet in the polling. If anything, right now we're careening towards a historic performance for Republican presidential candidate, the likes of which we have not seen in 6 decades.
That's garbage, what he just said right there. Trump will not outperform Reagan.
Well, Reagan was 6 decades. No, Reagan's, how many decades ago? That was six decades.
It was 80 through 88.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Won't outperform Reagan in terms of
what
winning.
did he just say was the last thing he said? The guy.
We're heading toward a Republican victory that we haven't seen in 6 decades.
He's just trying to scare the Democrat voters right there.
Think it'll work?
I'm not saying he's wrong about the facts that he mentioned about the story. I'm saying that was hyperbole and fear-mongering, the last thing he said there, because if the polls hold up and President Trump wins, he's not going to carry 49 states like.
No, right. That's that. Yeah, that's not going to.
That'll never happen in our country in the foreseeable future. But anyway,
I think one of the important things that he said though was that this is a guy that watches the polls and maybe knows that we are in a representative republic. I don't know, but he doesn't see this correcting itself. It's just not like, well, this is a one-time thing, and he says that these are voters that have gone and left and they're not coming back.
Gone where?
To the Republican Party.
Yeah, I think that's probably a stretch. Listen, I did see this report, and it was fascinating.
Who was the report by again?
The guy's name is Harry Enten, E-N-T-E-N.
First, there's no way he can match what Reagan did in 1984.
No,
Reagan won every state except for Minnesota, which was Walter Mondale's home state, and the District of Columbia. Okay, so I think Mondale won like 13 electoral votes. There's no way that I don't think anybody in our lifetime, Republican, will ever match that. Okay. Second of all, I think it is very likely that Donald Trump here in 2024, barring something else coming out or whatever, it probably is going to trim away a pretty sizable chunk, at least of young black men. The question is, will they vote on those convictions, or will they just answer pollsters and say Biden or Trump? But third of all, Republicans would, in order to keep those voters, Republicans would have to, post-Trump, make a serious effort to communicate their principles in order to keep those voters. But that is fascinating. That seems to be a real trend of black voters being chipped away by Donald Trump, I think on the strength of his personality and what's happening to him in the political arena with all these basically prosecutions that look more like persecutions than real legal prosecutions. So are these voters tied to Trump as a person or to the Republican Party? That remains to be seen.
I think the problem with the post-Trump reaching out and addressing the issues in the black community is that it's not good news for the black community. You've got to get fathers back in the household, which means you have to apply some discipline, some religious inculcation that's not there right now, or they're not paying attention to. The government has, in the 1960s, Lyndon, the Great Society, told them that they needed welfare and got them hooked on welfare. A lot of the African American community, a lot of white,
and
poor people,
single moms,
single moms, 70% are single moms.
So here's the Republican.
To fix that, it's gonna take pain.
Well, here's one thing that I think Republicans ought to put forward and say, because right now you can't have the father in the home and still get your welfare. I think you eliminate that.
Yeah.
I think you say if the biological father's in the home, he can stay and you don't lose your welfare, and try to build strong families that way. Fix schools. School choice is something that's a Republican principle. I think that a lot of black families are pushing for to get their kids in better schools. There's ways to build that message, but in order to keep those black voters
gradually,
whatever percentage that is peeled away from the Democratic Party, to keep those, you're going to have to make those kinds of proposals.
I'm voting for Ed.
Oh, no, I'm not running for nothing.
Don't we have a story or do we have the story on hand? One of the ones that we discussed this morning about the percentage of young black voters going to the GOP.
Yeah, we just did it.
We just did that.
Well, I'm sorry.
Did you
actually cover the actual percentage though? Out loud?
Did you do the young black voters, the percentage? Did he in that clip?
Yeah, he did. He talked about the numbers.
Okay.
86% in 2020 were for Biden, and now it's 70%. 7% in 2020 were for Trump, and now it's up to 21%.
Yeah.
Okay. While that story was going on, I was reading here on Fox News, which was hard to. I had to read it 3 times. MSNBC host worries about Biden that he will have to overcome the media's disadvantage, which is a major disadvantage. Talking about the debate, I don't know if I heard the clip, but I'm trying to be able to share it. The clip's better than what I'll read, but I'll read it out loud. MSNBC host, she says this, talking specifically about Biden and Trump, the debate. She says, it already feels like the bar is set so high for Biden to clear is so much more substantially higher than it would be for Trump has to clear, which is literally Trump just has to be alive. Trump has to be standing there. And he just has to have words coming out of his mouth, which is an unfair advantage for Biden.
You know,
have y'all seen that clip?
No,
yeah.
I have not.
No, are you saying that Trump has to stand?
Yes, that's what she. Yeah.
No. It's the exact opposite.
It is obviously.
Joe Biden, if he doesn't pass out,
right,
then he wins the debate. The media is going to say he's had a triumph.
Dad, this audio clip is worth playing tomorrow. We'll bring it in tomorrow because it's an MSNBC host who says basically Trump just has to show up and that Biden is at a major disadvantage.
She's saying the
opposite of what.
And in the debate, no, the debate is when?
That's
a week from this Thursday, I think.
A week from Thursday.
Where are they doing that?
In some studio somewhere.
That's right, in some studio somewhere here. That's good reporting right there.
Yeah, thank you.
What now?
Well, it doesn't matter because it's not going to be a college.
It really does.
It's on June 27th.
So yeah, the bar is so incredibly low for Joe Biden. Literally, if he doesn't completely mess up or have one of his freezing moments.
The reason I brought this story, and I know we didn't discuss this beforehand, but I'm sitting here reading this, going, "This can't be right." I remember listening to the audio yesterday. But then when you reread it, it's like
it's in Atlanta.
It's in Atlanta.
CNN headquarters. Yeah.
Okay. So, this, so you got the debate, and the debate between Trump and Biden is such that they're going to be in a studio with one questioner, one or two, or
two. It's going to be Jake Tapper and Dana Bash.
Okay, and they're going to be doing the questioning, the moderating, and so it's. There's no audience. That'll be interesting. There's no audience because we're used to seeing debates with audiences. And then the candidates themselves can't bring notes and no earpieces.
That's true about most debates, though. You can't bring in notes or have earpieces.
I've also heard that they won't be allowed to directly address each other. So, in other words, they answer the question. I don't think there's going to be any, and your reply to that, Mr. Trump, is.
Oh, okay, no back and forth.
I don't think there's any of that back and forth because that's incredibly. Trump has an advantage.
It'll all be curious. For me, I'll be curious to see how this actually plays out. And if you read it out on paper, the way it's structured, all the stuff you mentioned and more, I like the concept because then it's all about the ideas.
Yeah.
So I prefer this. I haven't seen a presidential debate with any of these restrictions in my lifetime.
Right.
It's been a food fight for the last 15 years that I've watched. So
that's a good way to describe it.
I would like to see. I mean, if it works out, I don't see how, but it'd be interesting to see if it works out.
It's gonna. Okay, it's serious, but I think it's gonna be funny.
You do?
Oh yeah, it's
on
gonna
both
be
sides.
Both sides. I mean,
I'm watching it.
I'm not against humor. I think it's going to be hilarious. Huh?
This is
in its own unique way.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is like watching the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, this is on my calendar.
Yeah.
I'm watching this.
You're going to hear a lot of Biden talking with Trump's mic cut off because they're going to cut mics off, and you're going to hear the.
Are they going to drop gloves?
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great day.